Okay, well, good morning from Los Angeles. First, like to say that never been a really highly political person. I just focus on my life and my family and my job and everything else. But it's a pretty rare occasion I wake up angry. And that happened this week, watching my city burn, feeling that it was avoidable in some aspects. But this morning I got the chance to read Gavin Newsom's declaration, and I just wanted to share my interpretation of it, what's in here that appears to be good and things to look out for. And what's interesting, I had a conversation with a very good client of mine yesterday who's in the entertainment industry, who's talked about doing a documentary on this declaration to see what actually is said in here and actually happens. And I saw some honestly, some really good things in here that can be helpful, but some that are of concern. So if you haven't seen the declaration from Gavin Newsom, I'm just going to run through it. I don't know if you can read it on the screen, probably not, but I just want to share a few points about what's in here. So the whole beginning is a bunch of whereas, just making factual statements that we're in a state of emergency, that there's 39,000 acres that have been burned. There's 12,000 structures that have been lost. LA has close to 10 million people in it. And the average housing cost is higher than most places, which exceed 30% of income. So I'll just stop there. This is something I study every day. So 30% of income on rent, just so you know what is considered normal. I don't know I'm not an economic major, but I can tell you when we work with banks to get consumers loans, their recommendation is they shouldn't exceed 28% of their gross income for their mortgage payment, or 36% of their income for their mortgage payment plus their debt. 30% of their income towards rent is actually pretty consistent, and is considered, reasonable for someone to spend. So I don't know if you're from New York, Florida, or Ohio, or anywhere else, what people are spending, but I find that's a pretty close average. The destruction of homes and the fires burning in LA will reduce available housing. Obviously, that's clear, and we're having a huge problem right now trying to put all these people in homes. Again, these are just factual statements he's making to allow the laws to be changed. He's committed to helping families and individuals who have lost their homes. As we know, it's a very divisive time in our country, and there's a lot of people really unhappy with what he's done, and there's those that maybe feel differently. The question is, will this actually happen? The state can expedite recovery from the disaster by eliminating barriers. This is the biggest problem in California, is the bureaucracy, and it drives anyone crazy. And being around the building industry for as long as I have, there is clearly barriers to allow developers, homeowners, consumers to be able to move forward and get their homes built in a reasonable time. And so we're going to see what happens. The efforts to rebuild should include measures to increase community resilience, harden homes, ensure defensible space to build resilience to future wildfires. I don't know what the impact of that's going to be. That is likely probably a smart thing, and where it's going to create safety for homes and build things around homes so the fires don't jump from house to house. But just keep in mind, it's also going to be some bureaucracy involved because they're really dictating what you can and can't do around the house. So that could just add some further difficulties in that process, but hopefully safety at the same time. The current law provides for certain waivers of state permitting and building codes, but additional streamlining is necessary. Streamlining is necessary. Listen, I'm going through a remodel myself on my office. It's been over 2 years to get a friggin' permit. It takes 3 years in Malibu to get a permit minimum. I don't know how long it takes in in the Palisades, but every time I wake up and have a conversation with a developer who's trying to build something, they say, I'm never building again in LA. It's just it's too difficult, too bureaucratic. Now imagine you have 10,000 homeowners trying to rebuild their home, and the bureaucracy they're going to be put through. It's going to be an absolute nightmare. Hopefully some of this will resolve. Another fact stated, this is big. Under Proposition 13 in the Revenue and Taxation Code, the base year value of property that is substantially damaged or destroyed by a disaster, as proclaimed by the governor, may be transferred to rebuilt property. What this is saying is whatever your tax value was before you rebuilt your home should stay the same. And that is not the case normally. If you rebuild a home in Los Angeles County, LA County is built up of homes built in the 40s and the 50s, and people come in, tear them down, rebuild something new. Your tax base is based on the improvements that were added to the property. They are saying that that won't be the case when you rebuild your home. Your taxes will be protected. Keep in mind, this is only going to be for the homeowner that rebuilds her home. I'm going to guess that at least 50% of the people in the Palisades and these affected areas will not be rebuilding their homes for a number of reasons. This is a big topic of conversation this week. Why won't someone rebuild their home? Number one, they're underinsured. There's going to be a big problem. Number two, the insurance companies won't have the money to pay them to be able to rebuild their home. Number three, they don't want to go back to that community for one reason or another. It's just too emotional. They can't afford to live in a home that's going to cost that much to build. There's a lot of different reasons they're not going to go back. So what does that mean to Proposition 13? It will not keep property taxes low for those that buy into the community that weren't there before. There's a proclamation on January 7th as a state of emergency, so that did go into place. That automatically restricts price. This is huge. Okay, this is something people need to pay attention to. The state of emergency restricts price gouging for building materials, housing and storage services, emergency supplies, and repair, reconstruction, emergency cleanup services when a state of emergency is proclaimed. But those protections expire after 30 to 180 days, depending on the good or service, and rebuilding efforts in the areas devastated by these fires will extend beyond that time. So what is that saying? Price gouging is illegal. I believe I read that if you raise prices more than 10% from what they were recently, then that's considered price gouging, and it is a criminal offense. So I've been watching the social media and watching people that are raising the rent right now. Is the one thing I can see from what it was a week ago to what it is now. Illegal. The bigger concern is construction costs. What's going to happen to construction costs in the area? 180-day restriction on this is not going to save anybody, because no one's going to start building for a year, maybe 2 years. So I can see construction costs going up dramatically. Moving on, those are his declarations. He's ordering that respect to repairs, restore, demolish, and replace property facilities, substantially damaged. He's saying the following are suspended to the extent that they would otherwise apply. CEQA, which is California Environmental Quality Act, which is a bear to get through, a long process. So that's a big thing if they're really going to remove having to go through CEQA, and the California Coastal Commission. Now, here's where the red tape comes in. So everyone's going to be jumping for joy that they don't have to go through the California Coastal Commission for approvals, because that can really slow down the process and change everything that you're planning on putting in a home. But the caveat they put in here, this paragraph only applies for facilities that are in substantially the same location and do not exceed 110% of the footprint. So what does that mean? This only applies to homes that are going to be built substantially the same size as what they were before. And homes in the Palisades, although some of them were very large, some of them weren't built to the size that normally would be built on those lots, which means they're likely going to want to exceed 110%. Again, LA was built mostly in the 40s and the 50s, and those homes were relatively smaller than what most people put on those lots. So this is going to help anyone that owns a home that was likely built in the last 20 years, because they were probably maxed out on those lots. Anything previous to that, probably previous to the 80s, was likely built smaller than would normally be built on those lots, which then it's going to go right back to CEQA, right back to California Coastal Commission issues for a large portion of those homes, and the same disasters of having to go through all that bureaucracy. So we'll see. The provisions of Penal Code 396 shall remain in effect. I don't know what that means. Call a lawyer on that one. So, you know what? I'm going to just summarize. There are some good bureaucracy things being removed for the upcoming building process. The biggest issue I'm going to see in this, what's going to happen right now is, which people are going to quickly learn, no one's going to be rebuilding quickly. You have pollution issues and environmental issues going on right now with what burnt with the plastics, asbestos, and all these materials that are in those areas. And they're going to have to find a way to clean it up before they can even start to think to build. And then second is infrastructure, the power system, plumbing system, all that's going to have been destroyed in those areas. That has to be redone. Then at that time, people can consider rebuilding their homes in that marketplace. And we'll see how much bureaucracy has been removed. But keep in mind, you've got a people issue, in the sense that there's not going to be enough people to review all these plans and approve them. We already go through nightmares in every city in Los Angeles County trying to get plans approved. It can take a year just to get someone to look at them in some cases. So I don't know how they're going to staff up and handle the amount of processing that's going to happen, but it's the labor. We have a massive, massive labor issue in this area. And so how is Los Angeles going to have any chance of building this in a timely fashion with the lack of labor? It's going to be a slow process. So anyone thinking of rebuilding in there, they're probably looking, I'm guessing 4 years, right? A year of cleanup. You've got 6 months to a year of infrastructure, a year or more to get through planning, and then 18 months to build. Probably we could build a home years ago in 9 months. Lately, it's taking 18 months in a lot of cases, maybe 12 months if you're lucky. But with the labor forces being spread thin, it could take 2 years to build a house, and that's not a crazy amount of time. So you're looking at 4 years from now before this community is even close to looking rebuilt. So that's my interpretation of what's out there. And as you see on lafiredonationcenter.org, we're going to continue to feed information in there. I think the one thing, if you do have a home, the first thing you want to do is check for with your county tax assessor to get immediate property tax reduction on your property if it's been damaged by the event. And that will reduce your monthly cost for your property tax bill. And that is something the county is required to do. So if you're looking for immediate savings, that's something to apply for as soon as practical. Maybe they're going to do a blanket reduction for that community. I don't know. But in the meantime, if you want to just be proactive, that's the first thing I do. We'll be posting those opportunities on the site. And the biggest thing we're looking for right now, there's some donation items. It's changed. We're getting a ton of clothing. We don't need clothing anymore unless it's brand new. We want to use clothing, it seems. So we're looking for brand new items. And additionally, gift cards, gas cards, any kind of store cards. I think those are the easiest things to help those that are really in need, to be able for us to distribute those. And Again, we'll continue to fill the information area. But what does everyone need right now? They need a place to live. So if you have any friends, people own multiple homes and they want to get it out there to those that are in need, and they're not going to price gouge, that's what we're looking for, is anybody that has access to a place for people to live. Just go on our contact page and let us know what you hear about there. And if you have a need, just communicate that. We're collecting needs and those that are looking for places as well as haves, and just trying to play matchmaker. So that's this morning's update from Los Angeles.